Welcome to the Sunday morning meditation service. I've just gotten back from Florida. I was visiting my sister who was very ill, and it was just a heart-warming experience to be with her. She's actually seeing people from the other side, and this is a girl who had religion for a while, but she really left believing in God for so many years. And I'll be talking to her, and she'll go, "Oh, there's Mom." It's like, it's like such an incredible experience. And she's so light. She's always had kind of a very quiet, angry. She had a really hard life. And you really, when you experience that you know that the people that love them, that had passed, are around them. It really does exist to see her, and she'll just stop, and it's just amazing. So I had that experience. She's still with us. She's still alive, but she's getting closer to the other side. So, all right. Golden light in the candle flame, deep in you, I feel the same. Open to the holy, holy, beloved. God is love, loving, beloved. Beloved, 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 Spirit of ecstasy, we are one. With beloved, with beloved. Golden light in the candle flame, deep in you, I feel the same. Open to the holy, holy, beloved. Open to the holy, holy, beloved. Beloved, 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 Spirit of ecstasy, Spirit ecstasy. We are one. One with beloved. Golden light in the candle flame, deep in you, I feel the same. Open to the holy, holy, beloved. Open to the holy, holy, beloved. God is love, loving, beloved, 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 Spirit of ecstasy, Spirit of ecstasy. We are one, one with beloved. We are one with beloved. Ishkala, Mabud Lila, Ishkala, Mabud Lila. We are one with beloved. We are one with beloved. Yeshua, Mabulila, Yeshua, Mabulila. We are one with beloved. We are one with beloved, 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 beloved.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And welcome to the first Revelation talk on the flaw in A Course in Miracles. Because we live in a fast food society, a self-serving society, you could say, a society of instant gratification. You might have expected that this morning I would immediately reveal to you the flaw in A Course in Miracles and then comment on it. However, rather than that, I will let you discover the flaw in A Course in Miracles as I give these revelation talks over the next few Sundays. Something extraordinary has come up and I cannot be here next Sunday morning. I had planned to be here, but I will not be here for that talk next Sunday morning. I'll be here the following Sunday. But this is all about discovering the flaw in A Course in Miracles. And in the process of these revelations, you may be discovering the flaws in your own consciousness. What I would like you to do is, if you think you know what the flaw in A Course in Miracles is, and it is a very definite, debilitating flaw. If you know what it is, just write it on a piece of paper and hand it to me after these classes are over, at any time during the classes. But you'll only get 2 opportunities to do that. If you miss on those 2 times, I will not accept anything you write on a piece of paper for the rest of the classes. I just don't want a lot of guessing going on, because the person that does reveal, the first person that reveals the flaw in A Course in Miracles, I will give you an autographed copy of one of my books. So there's also going to be a little different type of meditation this morning. And part of that meditation will include a piece that cannot be shared on live stream. So those of you that are watching this on live stream or hoping to pick it up sometime during the week on YouTube, you will miss that piece, only because of the copyright infringements that it involves. So I would like you to give your most focused attention to what I'm about to say. We have reached that deciding point. It's important for us to understand what will be shared here over these revelation talks. I want to begin with this particular quote from the scripture. This was given by the Master of Life. Thank you. To his disciples at the Last Supper. So let's take a look at this. And they've done it again. I practically have this memorized, though. This is my commandment. This is from John 15:12-17. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that a person lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends, for all that I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you. This I command you, to love one another. Those of you that are becoming more familiar with what I reveal in Unity through the deeper meaning of Scripture, you have already entered that process of collapsing time. You know that these Bible writers were not interested in revealing simply the divinity of one Jesus, the man. And you know that in these scriptures, Jesus, who we almost have to follow as a man, ultimately disappears as a man. And then we understand that these are universal scriptures. This is not the Master, Jesus, speaking to his 12 disciples in this Last Supper. This is the Christ consciousness revealed through the symbolic figure of Jesus. The Christ consciousness speaking to the world, to everyone who would be a disciple of the truths that transform the consciousness of humanity. For everyone who is a disciple, seeking the truths that will transform him or herself and humanity. So this is the universal revelation for us. And I'm hoping that if you decide to continue to read the scriptures, you will understand that these Bible writers were not attempting to reveal the divinity of one single, separate Son of God, Jesus. They were attempting to reveal the divinity of all human beings who would seek openly, honestly, and devotedly to know what it means to be a living expression of a God who is only love. Looking at humanity, we know, if we follow the Christ consciousness idea given in this particular PowerPoint, we would heal the world. But I have a question, and it's a question we should ask ourselves. What is the problem with loving each other? Think about it. Look at the world and then ask the question. What is the problem with loving each other? If you seek to understand that, like everything one seeks to understand, it will be revealed. But we do not seek the way that works. I suspect it is, as some say, we're not desperate enough to seek in the way that we would receive the truths, what would transform our consciousness. So we have to consider that in the process of our seeking, because we only kind of seek, would be willing to know, but not yet desperate to know. But it may not be far off that we will become desperate to know. Still, you have to be there before that juncture. I suspect we could begin to understand what the problem is for us to love one another if we began by looking at the first book in the Bible, that story about the Garden of Eden. And God creates mankind, and then creates, well, he created man, and he creates woman, so it's mankind, and he said, this is good. This is good. For this creation, it is good. But then he gives the instructions to mankind that he can eat of any tree in the garden, but he must never eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For the day that he would eat of that tree, he would surely die. Again, we have to understand this is just a great parable, possibly the greatest of all parables. And then we watch the story unfold as man eats of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And he did that because the serpent said to him, did God say to you that if you eat of this tree, you will not die? But I say to you, if you eat of this tree, you will become like God, knowing good and evil. And so mankind partakes of the forbidden fruit. If it's only a parable, and we bring it into the present, which is where we all live, the only moment in which we live, where the masters are seeking to enter, to instruct us. We bring it into this moment, we understand. We must be always in that garden, which is a state of consciousness. And the serpent is referred to over and over again by the masters of modern times as the ego-centered idea, defining a self that is illusionary. A body-centered self with a separate mind from all separate others in creation. So we fell from that awareness in which we could participate in any experience we so decided to participate in the entire creation, all creation, anytime, do whatever you would like to do. But on the day that you participate in this illusion of your separate specialness, and you seek to promote your personal self-interests, you will not only die, but you will be a symbol of death to everything else that lives. And so we can return to that consciousness that is denied now throughout the thinking of the world, and becoming more and more denied for the fleeting pleasures of personal self-interest. What did we give up for this insanity? What is it the Master of Masters wants us to do? The Master of Masters wants us to return to love, to loving one another. And he's saying that to do that, you will have to love as this Christ-conscious beingness loves you. There is nothing mankind has to give to God. Nothing. But God gives to mankind unconditionally the opportunity to enter in and return to the majesty and the miracle of being truly alive. As one who again loves without conditions, sees the creation as totally sacred and worthy of that love without conditions. And it will take that desperate devotion to re-enter that place, because the illusion has been so long and so strong with us. And the outer-directed thinking world is so sick with its own limitations that it will not let it go. So what is our problem with loving one another? Do you believe that this Christ consciousness, which dictated A Course in Miracles to Helen Schuckman, understood that humanity would never be in a place in which everyone loved one another? Is it possible that this divine intelligence, which came through Helen Schuckman as A Course in Miracles, knew that humanity would never be able to achieve the goal of loving one another completely, everyone, everywhere? So why then was the Course written? 7 years. Why? For those who become desperate enough to know what it means to be truly alive, it is there. And it is flawed on purpose. Before we break ourselves in the process of trying to understand the flaw in A Course in Miracles, let's consider this from A Course in Miracles, which reveals the flaw in us. You can read this in the old text, page 237, paragraph 3, in the new edition, page 255. You have been wrong about the world because you have misjudged yourself. From such a twisted reference point, what could you see? All seeing starts with the perceiver, who judges what is true and what is false. And what he judges false, he does not see. You who would judge reality cannot see it, for whenever judgment enters, reality has slipped away. The out of mind is out of sight, because what is denied is there, but it is not recognized. Christ is still there. The Garden of Eden is still there. The state of consciousness you gave up is still there, although you know it not, has being done. Depend upon your recognition. His being does not depend upon your recognition. He lives within you in the quiet present and waits for you to leave the past behind and enter into whatever that last line is, holds out to you in love. I'll read this again, and I'll read it so it may make better sense. You have been wrong about the world because you have misjudged yourself. From such a twisted reference point, what could you see? All seeing starts with the perceiver, who judges what is true and what is false. And what he judges false, he does not see. You who would judge reality cannot see it. For whenever judgment enters, reality has slipped away. The out of mind is out of sight, because what is denied is there, but is not recognized. Christ is still there, although you know him not. His being does not depend upon your recognition. He lives within you in the quiet present and waits for you to leave the past behind and enter into the world he holds out to you in love, the world you gave up. So we have to collapse time and space to know it is speaking to us. The truth is ever speaking to us. And in order for us to grasp it, we have to do a certain spiritual practice every day, because we have been so hypnotized by the delusions of the world. We have so long gone along with the confession of human insanity and lived with it and been okay with it. Yet, this master consciousness, through Helen Schuckman, brought forth the modern revelation of A Course in Miracles, knowing that all of humanity would never participate in understanding it and returning again to loving one another everywhere. Because this divine consciousness knew that anyone so devoted to understanding and returning to the reality of the living presence, the majesty of the sacred life that has been left behind by humanity, knows that anyone can enter into the real world There is a real world where there is insight and peace, confusion is gone, wisdom, love, understanding, wholeness, a place where we're not driven to and fro by the commercials on television or the social media, helping us over and over again to be only consumers for the green god of the pharmaceutical companies. They will manipulate and manipulate and manipulate without conscience to keep us in that limited, fear-driven thinking of the world. But anyone can awaken. Anyone can take on the task of opening his own consciousness to the truth of him or herself that resides at the core of every human being. Let us consider this also from A Course in Miracles. Page 236. Is this the way out? Awakening unto Christ is following the laws of love of your free will and out of quiet recognition of the truth in them. The attraction of light must draw you willingly, and willingness is signified by giving. Those who accept love of you become your willing witnesses to the love you gave them, and it is they who hold it out to you. In sleep, you are alone, and your awareness is narrowed to yourself. And that is why the nightmares come. You dream of isolation because your eyes are closed, your heart is closed, and yet the laws of love are not suspended because you sleep. We'll take this back again, please. Awakening unto Christ is following the laws of love of your free will and out of quiet recognition of the truth in them. The attraction of light must draw you willingly, and willingness is signified by giving. Those who accept love of you become your willing witnesses to the love you gave them, and it is they who hold it out to you. In sleep, you are alone, and your awareness is narrowed to yourself, and that is why the nightmares come. You dream of isolation because your eyes are closed, and yet the laws of love are not suspended because you sleep. Just another symbolic way of saying we are, in the thinking of the world, only sleepwalking. And it is that lack of light, understanding, wisdom, that lack of truth that has the world living these nightmares. And who knows where they will conclude. So, we're going to have a different type of meditation here today. I will read a story which may help us recognize something important about ourselves. Maybe one really meaningful step back toward the reality we foolishly gave up. This is a true story written by an Australian author named Trent Dalton. As I read this true story to you, I would ask that you keep your eyes closed as best you can. Just close your eyes and get into what is being related here. Five of us are gathered on this street corner in a circle. Only two of us gathered in this small circle of five are fortunate enough to see each other. Me, who is writing this, and Cassie, a black Labrador guide dog beside her blind owner, Renee Crawley. Renee is 61 years old. When she was 36, she was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa, an inherited eye disease that causes her light-sensitive retina cells to degenerate slowly. Renee's been telling me the great loves of her life, including Cassie, her guide dog, and her daughter and grandson. I could see my daughter clearly until she was about 12 years old, Renee says. By about the time she was 14, I'd started to have real problems. But Renee committed that face she loves so much to memory. Every contour of her daughter's cheekbones, what her lips do when she smiles, the contours of her jawline, her neck, the color of her eyes. Now Renee doesn't hurt so much and doesn't feel so bad not being able to see her daughter's face, for it is etched into her memory. But she says, I would love to be able to see my grandson. She says it sorrowfully. He was born on Mother's Day. He'll be 11 in 2 weeks. Renee states, if by some quirk of the universe I was granted 5 bittersweet minutes of perfect sight, I would, without doubt, spend all of them staring at my grandson. No sunsets required, no starry night skies required, no dazzling displays of light and color required. Just the perfect face of the boy I love most in the world. 2 of her best friends, who are standing beside her in our small circle, nod their heads in understanding. There's Grammy Ferguson, who is fully blind, and his wife, Diane, who is legally blind. They met 30 years ago when he and Diane, who back then was a single mother of 3 kids from a previous marriage, were starting up the Queensland branch of what would become Retina Australia, a sight loss support network and research charity. Grammy Ferguson had been raised in a home in Brisbane, Australia, with a family that had no fewer than 7 members living with retinitis pigmentosa. He said his siblings leaned on each other through early life and their teens in a way that most clear-sighted people could never comprehend. To get even a small measure of the kind of love he has for his siblings, you'd have to sit in a room in darkness for 5 unbroken years. When it came time for Grammy to help others through his support work with his organization, Retina Australia, he simply decided to treat every person with the same love and care he'd given his siblings. He tries to get them to see not what they can't do, but what they still can do. Diane says this: he's been there for so many people, and I know for a fact he's talked people out of ending their lives. Grammy nods slowly, mournfully, and he says, unfortunately, there were some that could not be saved. I asked Grammy if he's ever entertained those useless thoughts about what he'd do with 5 miracle minutes of clear sight. Oh, I've thought about that, he says. He switches his walking stick to his left hand, so his right arm is free to wrap around his wife's shoulder. What I'd like to see is my wife. I've never seen her. Tears well up in his eyes, and Diane, his wife, rests her head on his shoulder. And he pushes another sentence out of his mouth while he fights back tears. It's the same sentence. He says, I've never seen her. And I wipe a tear away from my own eye, relieved that he can't see me doing that. And then I can't help myself from saying something that feels sentimental and dumb and awkward and maybe more than a little insensitive. But I have to say it because I just sensed this amount of love flowing from Diane to her husband. So I say it. She's beautiful, Grammy. She's really beautiful. I know, he says, warmly and softly, gently nodding his head, more tears welling up in his broken eyes. I don't have to see her to know that. Those of you that missed this last part that are watching on live stream, you might just want to look up the song Looking Through the Eyes of Love by Melissa Manchester. We will take an offering for unity now. We'll have our discussion group as we're getting ready to do this in the fellowship hall as usual following this. And those of you online, you can tithe in these ways to Unity of Boulder. As we bring the offerings to mind that we want to give, and as we take them in our hands, let's bless them with this offering prayer. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. Join me now, please. We dedicate this tithe to the will and the work of the Spirit of truth. The Spirit available to each of us, the Spirit that joins all of us, the Spirit that waits for all of us. We dedicate this tithe to the victory of that truth. Amen. As I said, I won't be here next Sunday to give the talk. I hadn't planned to do that, but I got this situation came up that I couldn't pass by. All right?
Want to mention this slide?
Say that again?
You want to mention this slide that's up right now?
Oh, yes. I'm asking everyone who has read my book, Escape to Another Reality, please email me with your comments at jackgrovelandfeedback@gmail.com. jackgrovelandfeedback@gmail.com. Specifically, anything you really liked, loved, or didn't like, anything that moved you or made you cry, laugh, or think deeply about. So it doesn't have to be very long. Just email me whatever comments you have from the book. I would appreciate that very much. Thank you, Steve, for putting me into that.
Thank you.